Good evening and welcome to the Drive at 5 on IntellectualRadio.com/iHeart radio station. I am your host, Roman. We have a great show planned for you today, but first, the forecast from our IntellectualRadio.com weather center. Today, not as warm with increasing cloudiness, high 75 degrees. Tonight, mostly cloudy with a shower and thunderstorms in spots late in the evening, low 65 degrees. Tomorrow, a morning shower or thunderstorms in spots, warm and humid with times of clouds, with periods of clouds. Why I always mess up the weather, Bonita? Periods of clouds and sun, high 79 degrees tomorrow night, partly cloudy, warm and humid, low 69 degrees. Wednesday, very warm and humid with periods of sun, high 86 degrees. On Thursday, sunny, warm and muggy, high 86 again. On Friday, sunny, warm and muggy, high 86. The Drive at 5 is also part of the Monday Night Mogul lineup with acreage, assets, and acquisition / policy matters with your girl, Ria Ray Harris at 6 p.m. New Black Leadership at 7 p.m. The New Show at 8 p.m. 9 p.m. is Chronicles of Ron, and the Mic Up at 10 p.m. The Drive at 5 is also part of the fabulous 5 at 5, only on IntellectualRadio.com. Tonight, my guest, who is well-known poets. They are well-known poets, community leaders, motivational speakers, entrepreneurs, and radio hosts. They will give us their perspective of what is going on in the Chicagoland area from their perspective. Please give a Drive at 5 welcome. On the intellectual line is Black Ice, and in person is Bonita Whitfield. Welcome back to the Drive.
Hey, y'all. How you doing?
Thank you for having me. Thank you for having me back.
Let's talk about the recent story that's currently going on in the media. The video of Kanika Jenkins was recent. The video was recently released on Friday. Community leader Andrew Holmes saw the video without notifying the family. He seen it. Instead of, telling the family, he told the press his thoughts and opinions. Now, since the rest of the video footage, Holmes received some heavy criticism because he should have included the family in watching the video. Do you think Andrew Holmes went too far in viewing the video footage without notifying the family? Your thoughts on that? I'll start with you, Black Ice.
Okay, so Andrew Holmes is a well-known community activist, but little do many of us know that he is also a private investigator. So there is no way that this sensitive information could have been released to him without permission from the family. Now, there's a difference between having permission from the family to actually view the videotape versus having permission from the family to discuss the contents of the videotape. Now, I don't know whether the family gave him permission to be a spokesperson in that degree as to what the videotape contained, but it appears as if there was some type of discrepancy between the family and he in regards to releasing the content of the actual videotape. However, as a private investigator, someone who the family had given permission to, he could not have seen it without their permission. That's number one. Nor could he have seen it if he did not have the credentials to see it. So overstepping his boundaries to see the video, I don't think he overstepped his boundaries to see it, but to discuss it, that's where you may get in the gray area at as far as Andrew Holmes is concerned.
Was he out of line in discussing it to the media instead of the family?
Well, again, that's where the gray area is. Not having permission from the family to discuss it publicly is where some may say he had overstepped his boundaries. But again, everything regarding this case is so sketchy right now that none of us have all of the information in order to make an educated comment. Everything at this point would be hearsay and speculation.
Your thoughts?
My thoughts. Remember before the show started, you and I were talking about this particular issue, and I immediately was thinking it's not my business. And then you said, well, actually it is. When stuff affects our community, it affects each one of us personally. And that is so important. I totally agree with you. I don't know why I didn't think about it like that 2 seconds ago, you know? And I think that's part of the reason why so many people are actually talking about it, because we take these things personally. If we truly are a family and we're trying to operate as a family, we're trying to build strong relationships as a family, then we naturally are going to start, you know, feeling personal about some of these things that are happening. And like, for instance, I don't know this young lady, I've never met her, I don't know her family, but it still hurt my heart when I heard the story. Like, my guy and I was talking about it last night on the phone, and he was saying that he saw in the video there's like a hand that reaches over and kind of grabs her and pulls her out. Like, there's this one, like Black said, there's all these different people speculating. So we have all of these folk on Facebook as if they're investigators themselves, right? And so one particular woman was investigating the video, and she said, "Oh, wow, look, there's a hand, and somebody reached over and pulled her back. Like, she's walking by herself, but then all of a sudden there's something that pulled her into the darkness or whatever. And we don't know exactly what that hand was. But that, just hearing that story alone just gave me like a very, very frightful, in the pit of my stomach, in the deep depths of my heart, like this very horrible feeling. And I feel as if my immediate thoughts now are, we need to care for ourselves, we need to care for each other, we need to take care of each other. We can't be anywhere alone anymore. It's like, you know what are we going to do to survive or even thrive in this life if we are not protected? Do you understand what I'm saying?
Yeah. Just like what's happening now on Facebook, in social media world. Now the tables are turning towards the mother. Claims of them blaming the mother for going out there, for allowing her daughter to go out there
And that's
with her
just not
friend.
fair, though,
It,
because if I mean, I'm a mother. I have a 22-year-old. I have an 11-year-old. And what you naturally do as a mother, like any good mother, increases the distance between her and her child gradually, right? And by the time a child is 19 years old, you have created a lot of distance there. You should be able to, as a mother, say, "Oh, okay, see when you get back," especially when they're 19, right? You're an adult. My 22-year-old, she oftentimes makes decisions. Now, I wouldn't say more than oftentimes, like probably 99.9% of the time, is making decisions on her own. You know, she's grown now. And I could very well see myself being in the same situation. I could very well see my parents, who were even way better parents than I feel like I have been to my children. Definitely there was times when I was on my own. Like, I got my license in South Dakota. In South Dakota, you're 14 when you get your license to drive. And so I was like, at 17, driving from one state to the other. And I did that all by myself. So I'm going from the most northern part of North Dakota to like the middle of South Dakota. That's like an 800-mile trip just by myself, right? So and my parents were like, "Yeah, she could do it. It's no big deal." You trust that those things happen, and that was back when I was 17, and I'm 43 now, right? So nothing happened to me then. And so it's not fair to put that kind of blame on a parent.
yeah, Black, your reaction towards social media blaming the mother. Some people are saying that she's not crying, showing any type of emotion. There's
Oh,
one post, Facebook Live post, that's alleging that she, about her religious state, that she worshiped the devil or something like that. What is the facts? What is the fiction? And how do you decipher? Because if you're grieving, people grieve differently.
yeah, I'm glad you said that, because that's what I was gonna
How
say.
how how come social media is now beating on a mother for grieving over her daughter?
Or the way she's grieving.
Yeah, or the way she's grieving, Black.
So here's the deal. Roman, you know my story. I lost my 15-year-old son to cancer. You know that. And although I've lost a child, whenever I'm speaking at a funeral, whenever I'm speaking at a school or in front of parents who have lost their children to gun violence or by whatever means, I always say to them, I don't know how you feel, but I know how it feels to lose a child. Unless you're in the shoes of that particular mother, you're not going to know how she feels. You're not going to know how she reacts. You're not with her at night when she's alone. You know, you just don't know. So all of this stuff is speculation. And how do we come to the understanding of knowing what her religious beliefs are? You know, how do we know? Is there anything that we can point at in regards to her and say, here's a video of her mother doing this or doing that? No one has produced those type of things. So again, we all are intelligent adults, and everyone has an opinion of anything and everything. It's just that we cannot jump to conclusions without having factual proof to back those things up. Again, we don't know how she's handling herself when the camera is not on. We just don't know. So I would say, number one, allow her time to grieve. Allow the family to have that space to mourn the way they would like to mourn. And I'm more interested in getting to the bottom of this situation on how she ended up dead in the freezer at the the Crown Plaza Hotel. That's what I'm more interested about versus what the mother was into, how she's grieving or whatever. And even if she was into witchcraft or whatever, I saw the video too. What does that have to do with her daughter going to a party with a group of teens and early 20-somethings, drinking and smoking, getting high, and then ending up dead in a freezer? The two have nothing to do with one another.
Your thoughts on it?
I completely agree with him. And as a social worker, you know, that's my profession. We oftentimes say that everybody doesn't grieve the same. Everybody's timetable for grief isn't the same. One person may, the natural stages of grief, like to deny and then to be angry and to be upset and to go through bargaining, and anyway, to go through all of those different stages. Some people may go through those stages a lot quicker than others, and some may not even. It may take them years to go through one stage. The other thing is, I remember talking with somebody who was in the middle of grief once, who said when it first happened, like when she lost her mother, she was so busy working, trying to take care of this and take care of that and take care of this, take care of that, that it ended up being like months, maybe even a year before she actually cried for her mother. And this particular situation has got so much press and so much attention and so much, all the investigations and stuff like that. The mother could very easily just be working her butt off, The other thing is, like Black said, we don't know what she's doing behind closed doors, like while she's in a private state.
I can tell you one thing. She is still in disbelief.
Right,
that's the first stage. That's the first stages of a traumatic experience, being in disbelief. The stage that follows that is anger. So, she's gonna, after this stage, she's gonna be angry, and she's gonna be asking the questions why, which she's already asking, but, just look for those stages to come.
The other thing too is, now this is my immediate thought when you ask the question. We as Black women have been expected all of our lives to have a certain type of strength that's unfathomable to a lot of people. And she very well could just not look like others because trying to hold her strength together. She may feel like, I can't do this or I can't do that. There could be some thoughts in her head that cause her to not be publicly emotional.
Let's talk about the video a little bit. As I only can tell you my perspective, as I watched the video over and over again, What was disturbing to me is seeing her staggering around the hallway or walking up and down, trying to look for a door to open or something like that. Why would her friends allow her to leave the room in that condition? Do you think something is wrong with that picture? Because if you and I are friends,
Right.
why, if I know you're drunk or high or whatever, we're not judging. But the question is, why would you allow someone in that state to leave the room? To leave, period.
Mm-hmm.
Your response, Ice?
Well, we don't know as of right now whether she was with someone when she left the room. We just, it's just so many missing pieces to the puzzle. It's so many things that are unanswered, but we don't know. If someone was with her when she actually left the room, or not. Or if she left, hey, look, I'm going to the bathroom. I'll be right back. So you normally don't accompany someone to the bathroom, assuming that it's not too far away.
But Ice, come on. Most hotels have bathrooms inside of the hotel room.
There was a lot of people in there.
That is true, but it really depends on what kind of privacy they had while they were there. Because I saw over 20 teenagers or young 20-somethings in that room at the same time. So, like I said, we can all speculate, but we don't know for sure. But that was the only thing that I had an issue with, was after she had been gone for so long, then why maybe didn't one of the friends say, hey, where's Kanika? We need to get up and we need to find her. And then after a while, you couldn't find her, alert the hotel. But we know when illegal activities are going on, people are not as quick to call the authorities.
Your thoughts?
Anytime I've been with my friends, they are constantly checking up on me. And maybe it's just something that's different with my generation versus hers. I don't understand it. And there's definitely, I was not the fly on the wall, so I have no idea. Like, the only thing that I could possibly speculate is, maybe it's just a different generation. I mean, I don't get it, because like I said, I have a 22-year-old, and her generation, they're constantly looking out for each other. Not generation, but her and her friends, they do look out for each other, right? Or like, I work at grade schools, and they're always looking out for each other, all those little children, first grade, second grade, fifth grade. And then they're taught very well to look out for family. So for instance, you'll have like maybe you're working with, say, a 7-year-old, and you ask the 7-year-old a simple question like, where's your brother? And even though it's his brother doesn't have the same classroom as him, his brother is in a different classroom, that 7-year-old knows exactly where his brother is in that school at that exact moment. He could tell you rattle off his whole schedule. Well, my brother knows, my brother's in this classroom, he's doing this, he's working on this assignment, that kind of thing. So we as a people tend to really care for each other like that. And I also remember at times being, as you know, I'm an adult. So there's been times when I've been drinking or whatever, hanging out with my friends, and especially if they like, say you take a drink that you're not used to taking. Like, I remember this one time I was at this club, and inside the club, I walked away from my friend. I said, hey, I'm going to the bathroom. And I stayed in the bathroom. What he felt like was too long, he sent everybody in that bathroom for me. Like, this girl comes knocking in the bathroom, like that, just yelling my name. And I'm like, sis, I don't even know who you are, but I'm cool, I'm okay, right? And then pretty soon he comes yelling in, and it was a mess. But we just look out for each other, like Black said. I don't understand
it. Do you
think
that's the problem here? You mentioned maybe it's a generational problem, and it goes back to what we all discussed earlier today. loyalty. If we're friends, you're supposed to be loyal to me.
Right.
If something happens to me, where's your loyalty? If something does happen, if something does occur, where's your loyalty? So you're saying, well, that's her, not me. Sorry. That's what it sounds like.
From me or from the public?
No. From the public. And also, it sounds like that. And I'm not trying to interpret, but if you're her friend, you would know the difference if you're really close with that person or not. You would do the exact same thing. There are friends that's in her age bracket would do the same thing.
Same thing that my friends would do for me.
Yeah.
Right, exactly. Or maybe it depends. There's so much speculation, like how close they were, or I mean, the list goes on and on. So.
Black, do you think it was a setup?
In the beginning, I may have thought that it was a setup, given the information that we received about the case. But given the video footage that I saw of her walking in the hotel by herself, given the fact that the police hasn't called this a homicide, but just a death investigation, as of right now, I would have to say my opinion in this particular case is no, I don't believe that it was a setup. Although there was a situation where there was a mention about $200. I don't know if you guys remember that or not. But according to the reports from that is that the hotel gives a fine when they're smoking in the room. And the fine is like a $200 fine. And that's what the $200 was mentioned for.
Your thoughts on that? Do you think it was a setup?
I don't think her friend set her up. No, but I definitely think that somebody got her. I don't think that she just walked into the freezer and died. Or I don't think that she committed suicide. I don't think that she did not try to free herself. No, not at all. I absolutely believe that there's some kind of foul play somewhere. Who exactly? What time exactly? Where exactly? And that's what scares me about wanting to be more hyper vigilant about caring for me and my family, and saying to my daughter, be careful, or make sure you with your friend, that kind of thing. Like, we as a people, I think, need to work a lot harder at caring for ourselves and each other, because there's just so many external forces that, if she's walking around in the basement not knowing where she's at, she's vulnerable. And it was a nice opportunity for some criminal activity anytime you see somebody vulnerable.
The other disturbing issue that I would raise that has not been raised in the media is that she was clearly going somewhere and trying to find that place, whatever it is. How she knew what exactly where to go and have access to a construction area inside that hotel. You need a key to get access to the kitchen area. No hotel will allow anyone
to just walk through,
to just wander around, run amok at a hotel. What are your thoughts on that? Black?
Okay, so we see the footage of her walking through the kitchen. We see the footage of her walking in an area that appears to be an area where only employees are supposed to be. That's when I get into security. There are cameras all over the place. No one noticed her as far as on a camera walking in places that she wasn't supposed to be, where she didn't belong. If these were keyed access areas, and I know she didn't have a key, then the question is, how are the public allowed to get into areas where they don't have keyed access to get into? Now, I would like to speak to the hotel about that particular But nevertheless, it did look like she was looking for something or looking for a destination, because she looked like she was wandering. She looked just like she was wandering around.
Right.
And as I said before, she's not here to tell us what she was looking for. We can only speculate or assume that she was trying to get back upstairs and trying to find a way to get back upstairs where she came from. But in that regards, I think the hotel has to own up to some type of responsibility for her gaining access in a restricted area that was only for employees.
Your response to that?
I completely agree. Like, there's no debate, no, you know what I'm saying, Roman? It's just like, how? Why?
Well,
Unless there was some foul play going on.
The other issue is similar. If you look on the video and look at it very carefully, you'll notice there are red lines or red triangles or something on the video. To me, it looks like red sensors. It's not proven. If you're a security guard, because they're clearly supposed to have security. Every hotel chain has one.
Right.
They have sensors or things like a big screen TV.
Mm-hmm.
They have little pockets of television sets. If one of those things go off, the security is notified. I find it very hard to believe that someone was in that area. Where was the security? Why did security wasn't vigilant in noticing? You had cameras in every angle, but I mean, to go to Black's point, I don't think we looked at every single camera angle. If you're a guest at a hotel, they have cameras in every hallway.
Mm-hmm.
So there's one key thing that's missing, a component that's missing here, is the camera that basically shows her leaving the room.
Mm-hmm.
For a fact, I know that part wasn't under construction. I'm assuming here that there was a camera on that floor showing her leaving out or going into, and you know with whom.
Mm-hmm.
Why is it not released? Black, your response.
Well, in order to answer that, I would have to be the hotel. You know, and since I'm not the hotel, I can only assume that when it came to that particular issue, that someone dropped the ball, you know, and they have to be liable for some of those things. But I also don't want to take the responsibility away from the 19-year-old. You know, we're looking to say who's fault and who's responsible and who's this. A 19-year-old is, you know, a young adult. I mean, let's just be honest and let's just call it is what it is. She made some bad choices and she made some bad decisions. And I wish that the decisions that she made wouldn't have led to her death. But unfortunately, it did. And so she has to assume some of that responsibility. It's on her. Some of that responsibility of not locking down restricted areas. And we don't know if there were other videos that we haven't seen yet. So I can't say that there's not other videos.
But you don't think that the security is at fault? Because if I was the head of that security, of that hotel, my first firing would be that security guard or that security person, because they're supposed to monitor every nook and cranny in that hotel. Your response?
I'm pretty sure some heads are going to fly over this particular situation. But again, irregardless of whether the security did its job that particular night or not, if you had security cameras, I'm pretty sure that we have only seen what we are allowed to see.
Yes.
And I believe that there are more videos out there.
Yeah, I think that's the point that you're making too.
But because it's a death investigation, I'm pretty sure that we can't see some of those videos.
I agree with you. There's a however component with this. The however component is Sam Adams, who's a friend of the Drive at 5, been on here several times, was very adamant during the press conference saying over and over their team have requested to see all the videos. The press was the first one to get access, Andrew Holmes to get, but instead of the mother and the lawyer. You find that kind of odd, Benita?
No, not really. Like, see, Roman, when you are people that are victims of racism, when weird and bad stuff happens, I don't find it appalling because weird and bad stuff happens to us. I find it sad. I find it heartbreaking. I get angry and just sick. I start to wonder, are we asking the right questions? Are we equipping our people to not end up and hurt like this? Like, for instance, I think if all of our people would start off every moment of every day with that in the back of their heads, that hold on, wait a second, remember that you're Black. Remember that you are the victim of racism. Remember that bad stuff happens to you. So before you make decisions about what you're going to do, make sure that you're in good company, that you're with people who care about you. When we go off to other neighborhoods, when we go off to hotels that aren't owned by us, or when we go to, be in situations or places where they don't really care about us, they have no advantage whatsoever of protecting us. And then if they don't protect us, they can always say, well, my life was threatened, or, well, I was scared for my life, or, well, and it doesn't matter if you're sleeping. They can do whatever they want to do to us, and bad stuff happens. So to answer your question of, are you surprised? No, Roman, I'm not surprised that bad stuff happens, right? But I feel for the family, and I feel for all of our families, and I really hope that these situations will cause our people to start caring more. Like, we discussed the same issue on our show, on the Poet Radio show, on the Battle of the Sexes. It's the playful battle of the sexes. We really love and care about each other, but we get together and have fun. But by the time the show is over, we always come to some kind of healing solution. And on this particular show, we talked a lot about fun places for our children to hang out and experience each other, and have a good time with life without having to be in an environment that ended up costing someone their life. I think that's what's more important to me.
You mentioned odd stuff, odd things are happening in our community. There is factual information. Tanika's body was frozen. However, another issue has been raised, and it's not being reported in the media, social media outlets here in Chicago. According to 7 Action News in Detroit, body parts are being shipped to Chicago and Rosemont. They did federal investigation. FBI did it twice, one in 2015, the other one last year. And it has raised a lot of questions. This incident happened in Rosemont. The organ raid was in Rosemont. Why is the media not reporting about this, about the black market body parts in Chicago? There was a man that was from Detroit, and his body was found here in Chicago, and his body was stuffed with newspaper.
Who owns the media, Roman? Of course they're not going to show that. Of course they're not going to tell those stories.
But they're
Because
telling it in Detroit, why not here in Chicago?
is that reporter still working for that news station?
Yeah, it was an investigation.
Yeah, we'll see next year. Make sure you watch that person real closely, because I don't know how much longer they're gonna keep their job. We when we start telling the truth about what's happening in our community, then people silence us in some kind of way. And I could have suspected it. I didn't know that it was just that close. Like you've put together a real nice, a nice link right there. That's like real easy, sending body parts to Rosemont, girl dies in the freezer, Rosemont, it makes sense, right? And I wouldn't be surprised, because here's the other thing. They was like, toxicology report didn't find blah, 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 like couldn't find anything. Well, if they had drugged her with all kinds of stuff that could clearly be tested or picked up on quickly, then that might disturb her organs, right? So the link that you're making makes sense to me. You're not gonna get any argument from me. I wouldn't be surprised.
Black Ice?
Yes. So we have a few things that are going on that are kind of unexplainable, especially in these communities where the crime rate is really high. If you look at the top 6 communities where in Chicago is the deadliest communities, you have the South Side and the West Side of Chicago. You have Austin, number 1. You have Inglewood, number 2. You have Lawndale, number 3. Then you got Garfield Park. Then you got Auburn Gresham. Then you got Humble Park. So, and I'm just going off the top of my head because I look at these statistics daily on heyjackass.com. And for those who are out there, I want you to look at that site, heyjackass.com. And it will give you a lot of the statistics by community. Now, as far as I'm concerned, and I know we're dealing with organs and things of that sort. Can you guys still hear me?
Yes.
Okay. I know we're dealing with organs and things of that sort, but I talk to people daily, some of which live in Chicago and some that live outside of this country, and they are asking, what's going on in Chicago? And one of the things that I ask them is the guns that are being used in Chicago, are they manufactured in the communities in which they're being used in? And of course, the answer is no. The drugs that are being used in these communities, are these drugs being manufactured in these communities? And of course, the answer is no. So if the drugs are not manufactured in the community, and we don't have chemists like that doing it, and if the guns are not being manufactured in the community, then the question is, where are they coming from? Who's perpetrating it? Who's benefiting from it? And who's turning their backs when they're coming across the borders of our city, Chicago? And then, you have politicians that are in play. You got agencies that are in play. And you got a whole lot of entities that are in play. And then you got the land, in which I talk about all the time. There is no conflict that has ever happened in the annals of history that wasn't about land. Land is being sold on the south side and the west side of Chicago for $1. Imagine buying a piece of land for $1, which corporations have come in and bought multiple acres of land in these communities, build upon these vacant lots and vacant lands, and build property and retail spaces where they could get 20 times the money that they invested and more in those properties. So I'm saying all that to say this. Someone's benefiting from the plight of these communities, okay? Someone's benefiting from the death and the crime in these communities. We know that there's a black market for organs. We know that mysteriously some of these bodies of our young people have shown up with no organs inside of them. So we understand that there's a plan on behalf of someone for something that we're paying for, with the lives of our children. these railroad and railway carts. If you type in your Google search engine, stolen guns and the railroad trains, you'll find that guns are being shipped in these communities by way of railway cart or railway train. And all of a sudden, these gangs know exactly which railway cart to go to get these illegal guns from. Hell, Trump sent an FBI agent in Chicago. He pulled up at the gas station and for some reason had a trunk full of guns in his truck. Went in to supposedly pay for his gas, and somebody came and stole the federal agent's truck. We haven't heard anything more about that. So did they steal the truck, or he placed it there for it to be dropped off? So I understand this. You understand this. Most people who are listening to this understand this, that part of this, in my opinion, is a land grab to get a lot of this land in these communities, and we're paying for it.
But what about the organ situation? I understand the land grab situation. What about the organs? What benefit do individuals in selling, like now, according
If I was a millionaire and I had a sick family member who needed a kidney, okay, where's one of the places I'm going to look to get that kidney? I'm going to look at a place where I know that 10 people get shot and killed over the weekend, a place like Chicago.
And are they getting shot and killed because people need organs?
Well, I'm not necessarily saying.
You know what we should do is somebody should do an investigation on the 500 people this year who've lost their life. Are they organ donors? Is this sister of ours who just recently lost her life, is she an organ donor?
That's interesting too.
The reason why I'm bringing this point, the reason I'm bringing this point out, because it's too close connected. This incident happened in Rosemont.
Mm-hmm.
The raid in the body parts was in Rosemont.
I said it's a link.
And it's kind of like it's a foul play situation that we just can't explain. And I know we need more time to divulge into this, but I'm going to go to my next question. Community leaders are fighting amongst each other with the same issue. Andrew Holmes is in trouble now. Now you have other leaders clashing. I don't like Bonita because Bonita is such and such, such and such. I don't like Black Ice because Black Ice is such and such. He's an opportunist. He's a camera hog.
Mm-hmm.
Why community leaders are fighting each other, and it's the same cause instead of
working together?
Yeah.
I don't know. Maybe Black can answer that better than me. I personally just think it's
they're fighting over the Kanika situation, and it's on Facebook, social media, and it's on 25732. I mean, it's kind of like can you sit these brothers down and say, "Hey, you're making a mockery out of this situation? Can we come to some type of agreement that can we work together?" It's the same issue. We're fighting for the same cause. Your response, Black Ice?
Well, we've always had situations like this. We had Martin Luther King, and then we had Malcolm X. We had Jesse Jackson, and then we had Minister Farrakhan. We had Toussaint Louverture, Noble Drew Ali. So we've always had leaders that stood on different sides of the coin, or leaders who were backed financially or financed by one group as opposed to another group. So I'm not surprised that it's even happening in this situation, because one of the throwbacks is that one of the activists got money for something that he was involved in, and he worked with one activist that didn't get any money. Well, those things are going to happen. But for us to be wise, is for us to not put one activist against another. And I'm not saying that we're doing that on this particular show, but I need and that one's purpose may not be the other one's.
You breaking up?
I said that one's purpose may not be the other's purpose, but whatever purpose that the activist has to serve, allow that activist to serve that purpose. And we can't be so quick to say, well, if it was me, I would have done it this way. Well, you do it the way you do it. And you allow that other activist to do it the way he or she does it. Andrew Holmes has helped many people. Jamal Green has helped many people. Lamont Record has helped many people. Jedediah Brown has helped many people. Black Ice has helped many people. So let everybody stay in their own lane and then do what they have to do.
Why they can't work together? At the press conference, you saw Andrew Holmes, Jedediah Brown, and another community leader there, and everything was peachy, cream, and so forth and so on. Then all of a sudden, all this ruckus was just happened all of a sudden, and now it's can we all get along?
You know, are you the thing that you're watching where they're not getting along? Was that an edited video?
No, actually,
or was that live?
One is making a claim on Facebook Live.
Uh-huh.
The other one is making a claim on Facebook Live, and the other one is making a claim on Facebook Live. I'm not giving their names.
Right.
And they're basically talking about each other, and they're clashing, but they're putting this out instead of behind closed doors.
So they're it's kind of like, okay, so they all coming from different perspectives.
Correct.
All fighting for the same goal.
Right.
But they just coming from different roads, and they don't know how to just get along.
Correct.
And why are they not getting along?
I can't answer that. That's why I'm throwing this question out. Why black leaders can't get along with each other? Why millennial black leaders can't get along?
You're pretty good, Roman, at throwing out those rhetorical questions, like, this
is a serious topic.
No, it is serious. But what I'm saying is, I'm not making light of it. What I'm saying is, it's not an easy question for any of us to answer. Like Black said, this is a historical issue with us. But you know, you could pretty much not even invite me ever again, because you could just say, well, if Benita Osset was here, I know what she would say. She would say, this is the fault of racism, right? And because I almost everything, like even if there's a crack in the road, we can blame it on that. Like we can really seriously take it back to that. And once you sit down and you work together and you recognize that there is an external force trying to hate or harm you as a people, and if you recognize that and you live your life that way, then you'll start to look at your people differently. And if those or these or our leaders recognize that fact, then I think very simply they can say, hold on. You know, if I'm talking bad about my brother, it's got to be some other external force doing something to me. Let me just call my brother and have a sit down and talk with them. Just like Black said, it was that way between Malcolm and Martin, but then Malcolm and Martin got together, right? And they became cool. And soon after that, we know what happened. They were assassinated. It's the same with Tupac and Biggie. You know, there was all of this so-called West Coast, East Coast beef, and then you hear Tupac on the air talking about, ain't no beef, we cool. Next thing you know, they're assassinated. They don't want to see us as a unit, because if we're a unit, then we can heal and we can mend and we can work together and we can build. Every single time that, you know, I've had this book idea in my head for years now. I call them the black come-ups. There's so many times when black folk have done an amazing job of just rising up, and then all of a sudden some destructive force comes. And it's not just all of a sudden, and it's not just some destructive force. We know exactly what it is, but this destructive force comes and knocks it down. Like, for instance, Black Wall Street, Rosewood, civil rights movement, desegregation. There's just so many times, or like moving out of slavery, and then now all of a sudden the prison industrial complex pops up. It just goes on and on and on, bro.
For time's sake, I have to
Cut me off.
No, no, not to cut you off, but I really want your perspective on this. The drill music is another component which is similar to heavy metal music. It is a known fact that the drill music has hidden messages for gang members, and even saying
drill music, Romans. That's that trap music, or are you talking about
music,
like the South Shore drill team? Okay.
Trap music.
All right.
And even messages such as killing yourself. Your thoughts. I pivot to Black Ice. Your thoughts on the drill music. Is it hurting or helping us in the community?
Well, I can't say that all drill music is bad. Just like I can't say any other kind of music is bad. It's just really dependent on the content that you put in the actual music. We know that what gets most of the airplay has a negative connotation inside of it, whereas demeaning women and promoting violence and other things in the music. And so for that particular reason, and what the radios choose to play, it gives the whole genre of trio music a bad connotation. So we have to be careful when it comes to our children and what they're listening to, because see, they are being programmed by these lyrics, and their behavior is reflective of the lyrics that are in these songs, which promote alcohol use and drug use and some of these other things that we've been seeing from young people on these videos. So we just have to be careful as to what type of trio music we listen to, and we need to start promoting the positive trio music that is being made by artists that you don't know about because radio doesn't promote it.
Your response?
I am one of those mothers who does not censor my children, and the reason that I don't is because I want them to be highly exposed to anything, anytime, any place, and be ready, well equipped for anything, anytime, any place. Also, I think that it takes an animalistic mentality to be affected by somebody else's words like that. For instance, if you have the ability to think critically outside of that, here's a couple of examples real quick, because I know in the sake of time. Dr. Neely Fuller has said that he's created the compensatory code for victims of racism and white supremacy. And in the code, he has lists a bunch of different words, right? He's got his own glossary. Well, one of the words is the N word, right? And he said that he has changed that word to mean a victim of white racist supremacy or white supremacy racism. So anytime somebody calls him the N word, he says, yes, that's right. That's who I am. I am a victim of racism, right? And so if you have the capacity to think critically and rearrange and take your own perspective on things, or dissect words, then it doesn't bother you. Another way of looking at it is me. People might call me a bitch. And if you call me that, I'm like, or like, for instance, in a song, I'm listening to the song and they say the B word in the song. And I'm like, shit, they ain't talking to me, because I know that's not who I am. I'm much more classy of a woman than that. Right. So I don't mind them using those words, because I actually believe that there's a hierarchy and a lowarchy of people. I think that you evolve up to man and woman, and you actually devolve down to the B word. Right. So I don't mind trap music, because I think also what it is it is a story that is taking place of something that's really happening.
Well, that's going to do it for us. See, you will be invited back.
I try not to curse, Roman.
Okay, well, thanks to Benita Whitfield and Black Ice. Thank you so much. Next time we'll have you in studio, okay? All right, that's going to do it for us on the Drive at 5 on IntellectualRadio.com. Thanks to Earl Winfrey, our executive producer, Rhea Ray Harris, and Wanda, who's behind the scenes. Jerry is up next with Acreage Acquisition and Policy Makers. Coming up next on the 6 p.m. See you next week.
Then I knew that I was meant to be a fisherman. There were millions just like me, but I vibrated on a different frequency. Many of them were stranded, but I was the only one that survived and made it to this planet. Grew up in the hood, Inglewood, where I had to hide my identity. Until one day I uncovered the truth, discovered the root of my power. It took me hours upon hours to perfect my game. My fame began to become evident. I became known as the Black Clark Kent. As a child, I spit faster than the speed of sound. Leap over the seer's tower.